All right, so now we're talking about the rifle. This rifle is a Bravo Company 14.5-inch upper receiver with a Daniel Defense lower. The lower doesn't really matter, but the 14.5-inch pinned and welded muzzle device, so the whole rifle length is 16 inches. The iron sights are LWRC, they're flip-up iron sights. The Optic is an Aimpoint H2. It's non-night vision compatible, don't care about that. It's a 2 MOA dot. I recommend the smallest dot you can get. This is 2 MOA, which means that it's 2 inches at 100 yards. The furniture, this is a Bravo Company foregrip, Bravo Company hand grip, and a Magpul buttstock. The trigger is a LaRue Tactical 2-stage trigger. I love this whole setup. Let's start from front to back here. So, the muzzle device, it's pinned and welded, don't really care, it works great. I have nothing bad to say about it. The iron sights. So the iron sights are LWRC. I recommend metal iron sights. Don't really care who you get them from, but you want metal and you want flip up. So when I flip these things up, it locks into place. So when I want to use them, they're there. When I don't, I can press this little detent and the whole thing collapses on itself. Locked in place and it collapses so it's out of the way. Love it. Moving down to the hand stop, or the foregrip. I like, especially with like a full rail, this needs to go in the middle, especially because when I'm starting to grab and aim, I like thumb over the bore. So when I go to aim in, I can hold this here. I'm not reaching all the way out to the rifle. This is overextended and ridiculous. I'm not so close to where it's tight because I can choose the magazine while here. Right in the middle allows me a good elbow bend to pull it into my shoulder. And I can use this for a lot of other stuff too, for shooting urban prone and whatnot. So it's not just for your hand, it can be for your wrist or for other stuff. Moving down to the Optic. This is an Aimpoint H2 on a LaRue 660 mount. It's just a little bit of a higher riser. It's a QD mount. Again, like I said, 2 MOA dot. It's a red dot optic. They got some other good options out there like the Cyclops is an etched reticle. This thing has been great. I kind of wish they had a 1 MOA. I want a smaller dot than this is. It's only 2 MOA, which is still great. One thing I recommend for your optics is not to run open emitter, meaning like your RMR optics that you see on like pistols and whatnot, because if water gets in there, you lose the dot completely. You want, again, the smallest possible. So your 3 MOA, 4 MOA, whatever, as small as possible on the dots. Rear sight, kind of the same thing, not kind of, the exact same thing. This rear sight locks into place. You've got your small aperture and your large aperture. They both flip around. And again, lock into place. They lock down. Love it. The hand grip, or this is the regular grip for this thing. It's just a BCM grip. Nothing special about it, but it works fine. And then finally, you have the Magpul buttstock. Now I have Magpul for a reason. It's how this sling attaches here. I'll get to that later. But I like the Magpul. It's got a little more real estate here. I like that this attachment point can swivel and it'll go vertical like this. On the Bravo Company stock, it forces you to have the sling attachment like this. And then finally, the LaRue Tactical 2-stage trigger. So when I'm running this, let me put this, it's empty. So you have slack. You have the ability to have some slack in the trigger. Slack, sights, squeeze. There's a very light trigger. Reset it, you can listen for the click. This is really good for longer range precision. I'm gonna say it's less than $100. It's a trigger, it doesn't take very long to drop in. This whole setup has served me fantastic for over 3 competitions. And just keep it simple, you don't gotta throw a bunch of fancy stuff on there. One thing I will say with the optic placement, aside from being, you don't want an open emitter, as small about as possible, is you want to make sure that you are not putting this optic, you are not bridging this crease right here. You want this optic on the upper receiver. You don't want to bridge this from the receiver to the rail, because this rail can shift over time. This piece will never shift. Okay, so make sure that your optic is on your upper receiver only.